Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone. I am Neeraj. I am product lead at BrowserStack AI. And today we are exploring scaling QA and test automation with Agentic AI. I have a special QA leader with me, Anis, who is a quality engineering architect and chapter lead at easyJet. I welcome Anis, and I would let her say a few words about herself.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Neeraj. My name is Anis, like Neeraj said. I'm leading the quality engineering chapter within easyJet with over 1.5 decades of experience within industry in the quality engineering and automation space. Looking forward to today's talk. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thank you. Before we move forward, just a few house keeping items. Yeah, so we'll run in this session 45 minutes. Session is recorded, so you don't have to take any notes and you can hear all the insights. And we'll make the recording available. And there's going to be a dedicated Q&A at the end. So I would really request you to please keep putting your questions in the Q&A window and we'll touch upon them at the last. Great. So let's get started. So Anis, how I want to structure this conversation is I want to start with a quick high-level understanding about your team's goals and priorities and how they are changing with AI, and then maybe go through the journey of test automation and starting from authoring to execution to analysis, and how are your experience has been with AI today? How are your practices evolving? And in everything, I think the audience would really love if you can share some insights of what has helped you with AI today in your experience, and what hasn't worked, and maybe if something changes dramatically in future, what would really help QA to move forward and be more efficient. So I'll start with probably understanding around the changes in your team priorities and goals in the last few years due to AI. So has there been any, how has your goals, your priorities, and how the success looks like for QA teams changed in the last few years due to AI?
Right. Yeah. Um, So how I have seen it change is that it is initially perceived as it was initially perceived as another tool that can possibly help us scale whatever we are doing, but it slowly evolved into much more than just a tool. It evolved to the ways of working, how we approach quality engineering. In my opinion, when I studied it as we progressed through that AI journey. So definitely 2 to 3 years back, it was not as advanced as today. So when we did see some of the use cases, most of it were related to data and analytics and stuff like that, and it had not started penetrating into development and testing and all of that. But today, what we see is AI being present like practically everywhere. You can use it on a day-to-day basis, just like you were using Google or anything else. You could use AI to do anything that you are trying to do within your job. But it is also, I think, important in my view to understand how best to use it. So any given tool, it can be effective and efficiently used only if you think through how you want to do it and have a strategic approach to using it. Of course, for your personal use or for your day-to-day work or whatever, you can still go ahead and use it and experiment with it, and it's a good thing to experiment with it. But when you are trying to do that at a scale where it is for the whole organization, for a department, you're trying to bring in AI initiatives and things like that. That's when you need to be more strategic about it and try and think and explore and research about what is available, what works for my team and what doesn't. So based on all of that research, the approach that I put together was that what are we doing today to improve the developer productivity. So whatever innovative initiatives we had taken in order to help our engineers, we thought we will do that through AI, so that we are helping the people on the ground to sort of build products and build solutions efficiently rather than any other sort of thing. It's mostly to help them and have that assist sort of a approach to it. So when we started exploring, I added the objectives for our team to explore AI based solutions for things like scripting activities and things like that. So within GitHub, there is a GitHub Copilot assist that comes. It's an AI solution, of course. So you don't have to essentially go outside your code to be able to use AI. It is integrated within your code space. So we thought, let's try and experiment with it and try and understand, how it can save us time and things like that. So that was one approach that we took.
Got it. So the learning for us is, I think, you've started with exploring different AI tools centered around making your teams more efficient with AI. I think a lot of companies, or I feel the teams, jump the gun and try to go to the stage 3 or 4 of by fully automating it. So I think that's one learning for us, is to maybe as a leader first, we need to start exploring different tools and then see how they help us and then evolve from there. Um,
Yeah.
so with that, Anis, maybe I'll wanted to touch upon your scripting part of it that you shared about, especially the authoring, right? Which is, I believe, is one of the most time consuming part of your team. I'm assuming, as a QA
Yeah.
engineers, for your engineers. So can you paint a picture on, like, before and after, and then how, where has AI helped you and where it certainly did not help. So
Yeah,
yeah.
sure, sure. I'll talk about the positives first, so that we can inspire people to do this. So initially, when we started off, what we used to do for our automation work is most of the scripting of the BDD test or any other form of tests that we used to write for us to then automate those to ensure the test coverage and things like that. We obviously did it all manually because there is no such tool to sort of generate the tests. And then we would develop the framework, then we would develop the scripts, execute them and put it on CI, and measure the coverage and things like that. And now what we are wanting to do is, at each of those stages, what kind of AI tools can help us is something that we explored. In the beginning, if I have to start from the beginning, the understanding of the user stories or the requirements itself is something that AI tools can do and be able to, like, produce a set of tests. Although, obviously you shouldn't be relying on those results solely. To ensure there is right amount of test coverage, you would have to sort of use it as an assist and be able to validate that there is enough test coverage and things like that. And beyond that, once we have ensured that it's all up to standards, we start doing the framework development activities. So in the framework development activity, we were able to use the AI agent to build the boilerplate solution. So they stripped down basic baseline framework that we needed. That is something that AI agent was able to, like, flawlessly deliver. And then in terms of the dependency mapping and dependency of the framework components and things like that, configuring that setup is something that it helps with. Ensuring that we find the right selectors and automatically find those selectors and find the right kind of selectors. Generating the tests itself using all of these design patterns and all of that. If you give it feed that, I need you to design it with page object model design pattern, these are the pages or whatever, it just creates and develops those. Which sometimes is a bit scary that it's doing your job for you, but then yeah, you need to start thinking from the perspective of, it can do that assist, but how do you ensure that there's governance around it? How do you ensure that you use that to your benefit and build on top of it, and put your effort into analytical reasoning and things like that, which the tool cannot do, of course. um, from the business perspective, whether it works or not, those kind of things, that is something that you need to sort of drive. So you still need to be on the driver's seat, but it helps you take things forward more quickly. Then in refactoring the code, if there is any changes that come through, you need to refactor some of the code. That as well, it helps with debugging the build issues and debugging the failed scripts and things like that. It helps you creating a README after you've developed everything. You need to create a README. I know how much developers hate writing a README file, and it
Mm.
helps you with that. It also helps you with an existing repository analysis and explanation of what it does, where there is test coverage, where there is no test coverage, what is it we can do to bridge that gap. It generates a summary. Then it also helps in build pipeline, debugging support and all of that. It also helps in PR review. So if you're wanting to do a PR review and want it to assist us to, like, how have they followed these best practices, if I give it set of best practices, it is going to let me know whether the developer has followed those best practices or not. So that as well is something that helps save time. And we could actually create a central space. That central space is basically a confined area you're creating for your team, where they have a way to experiment and to play around with the existing solutions and understand what is available today, so that one, we don't rebuild the same solutions over and over again, and there's no duplicate effort, but also to understand whether what is existing is something that helps us today or not, and things like that. So these are some of the things, without going into much more detail. These are main things that we experimented with initially. And what didn't work is simply trying to automate everything using a particular tool, where there is, we just need to record and play sort of a thing. That is something that today we will not be able to do, in my view, for every single application, at least within easyJet, because we have a lot of legacy code. We have a lot of monoliths. So all of those are something that are needed to be tested very traditionally. There is automation on top of that as well, but then it's not something that you can build by just clicking a few buttons, or giving it away to AI for it to build. So that's something that we feel that we need to still see how it evolves, and we're able to use it at a later point, maybe.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much, Anis. Just curious, I think you talked about GitHub Copilot as a tool that you're using for framework development, for getting started with some of the tests. I think the highlight is at every stage, it is very assistive, where sort of the humans are in control and the AI is simply helping them or augmenting them, versus doing, humans being out of the loop and being fully automation.
Definitely not.
And just curious if you can bring like one or two examples from your experience, which really sort of wowed you, that, okay, this is where, in the recent past has really, you're seeing in your team is able to do much better before versus after AI. Just an example that might help.
One thing which is like very interesting for me is, as an engineer, I myself have spent a lot of time debugging. Actually, the effort that goes into the scripting part is not, that's lesser than how much time you spend on debugging and trying to correct what your script is doing, make it work. So that is something that I've spent a lot of time with. And today I see solutions like, in fact, one solution that I see in BrowserStack as well is test observability, which can help us understand the errors and be able to categorize those errors to application issues or environment issues, or issues within the code itself and things like that, which I find very interesting and very helpful for the teams, for them to save time while doing that. It's also sometimes frustrating to sort of make flaky tests work and things like that. So those are things that can help. So that I found as to be very interesting. Another thing that I found interesting was, there's one or a couple of tools that we're exploring for test data management. wherein we are generating the test data using the production level data.
Mhm.
Until now, what we used to do is take the production data and obfuscate it to our requirements and put it onto the test environment, because you know how test data can be so painful to generate and all of that. So when we started exploring these solutions, we see that because of AI's advanced nature now, we are able to see very mature, very sophisticated tools which are able to take the subset of the production data and able to produce large sets of test data, which we can then just configure and put it into our test environments. It can not only help us in understanding the end user needs from the production data, we will be able to make sense of that, but again, use that to enhance our test coverage and all of it. So that is again something that has worked me recently.
Great, great, and very interesting to hear the debugging part. I think that's great use case and something we have
Yeah,
been looking at BrowserStack. That how do we just make it dramatically more efficient with
yeah,
the and sort of just do the RCA so that engineering the QE team can actually get on with just solving the problem versus looking for issues. I think great use case for AI, and
yeah,
very interesting that you brought up about the production data and generating the test data, something even I'm learning it for the first time. So thank you for bringing it up. I want to move on from authoring to something which is, now you can get more coverage relatively faster. You can get
mm,
more tests written, more efficiency there. But how do you handle now test maintenance? How do you balance your time with new tests versus maintaining the test, or for example, like any of the technical debts that can get added, or any small UI change can probably start breaking your scripts, right? So as more and more tests you are writing and is going to be written, just curious,
mm.
how do you see the test maintenance changing?
Yeah, so I have seen some very early products related to auto healing.
Mhm.
In the recent past, like 2 years back and 1 year back as well. Um, but what I found is that those are very confined to how you have written your test, or how simple your UI is, for example. But what I would probably want to explore further is how AI has evolved these kind of tools to be able to auto heal some of the changes that come through, but also be able to tell us the impact of what change causes what impact, and then we are able to sort of understand whether we need to make those changes, or is there any application issue and things like that. So providing that insight into what change impacts how is something that will be really useful. And yeah, that is a space where probably we need to explore further as to what kind of solutions have evolved today.
Got it. Got it. And just curious about your tech debt, and I think you touched upon with the PR review, but just curious, as it's more accessible now for more people to write tests. Maybe even new joinees can ramp up faster and start writing authoring tests. So how do you create
Yeah.
standard
Um,
thing?
so there are we did think about exploring low code no code solutions as well,
Mhm.
from trying to build solutions for legacy and something that has a lot of hops in terms of integrations and all of that we could develop with all of the assist that I just spoke about. But anything that is more straightforward, say for example an online booking, we are in the department called e-commerce, so even though it's an airline, it's like the commercial or the customer facing part is something that works like an e-commerce division. And from that perspective, if there is a workflow that the user has to go from one point in a journey to the end point where they're able to purchase the tickets and ancillaries and things like that, that's a straightforward journey which we probably could automate using low code no code solutions. And then any changes that happen as well, probably these kind of low code no code solutions could help us in understanding how that change impacts and what kind of enhancements I would need to make, what is the maintenance effort that goes in. With traditional approach approach, of course, we factor in when we're calculating the ROI, we also factor in the maintenance effort, because if we do not, then the ROI is not essentially true. So there's a lot of maintenance effort that goes in, which sometimes gets overlooked. So that is something that we probably can avoid when we're trying to use AI to write our scripts as well as to maintain them.
Got it. Just follow up on Anisa. It's very interesting that so you have established test frameworks, practices that you've been following. Now, obviously, the speed and efficiency, you need to author more tests, more types of cases, and everything. You said you're looking at for some of these. Are you looking at LCNC, or are you looking at your just working with your in your existing framework setup and adding tests there? So I'm curious that how do you balance between some of your tests, meaning some framework, some being in LCNC or low code, no code? So just curious that how do you look at that?
Um, Today, essentially, we do not have any solutions. To be very honest with you, we do not have solutions solely based on low-code, no-code, approach. But that is something that we're trying to add as a capability, so that anyone who doesn't have the coding knowledge or understanding is able to produce tests which are equally, good in the content and in quality. Um, so if there is, in the future, if we are able to bring such a solution in, and we need to integrate that with, say, some sort of API calls and backend validations and things like that, to make it an end-to-end in true sense, rather than just confined to one single component or one single application. That would be something very interesting, and I'm sure that it will be easy to configure, things like that, because again, a lot of things can be managed through API calls, and configuring those API calls and validating that. So yeah, that's something that I'm curious to sort of explore further as well.
Got it. Got it. I think it's a great learning that you are exploring as a leader, and I think it's every team is grappling with the same problem that do we write with existing established test frameworks? Are we faster, slower with that, or should we start looking at some of these new tools and be even more efficient? So I think that's a good learning for us to continue to explore and see how we can be faster.
Absolutely.
Um, I'll just remind the audience, please keep sharing your questions. We'll be addressing them at the end. Anis, I want to move into something on the now CI/CD side, on the test execution and analysis side. One of the problems that we have had, or bigger organizations we've always had, is our test suite is now expanding a lot, and it's big, and now it's going to be even more bigger with more coverage and with AI assisted coming into picture. So how do you um, um, figure out like faster feedback and your builds being within certain thresholds, so that there is your release are not stuck? And just curious about how do you orchestrate, or are you looking at any of these things as well?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one challenge that we constantly see. We have thousands of tests in some areas, which we obviously do not want to run regularly. Otherwise, we'll not be able to release anything in time. So what we have done is, using AI, we've also like analyzed our existing test suits and be able to understand what could be, maybe go into a regression pack, what could go into smoke pack, what could go into sanity and things like that. But
Mhm.
also, what repetition do we have, can we merge them into merge those tests into one single test and things like that. There could be few that are redundant because the application code has changed, and it has evolved, the application itself has evolved, or the product has evolved, and those features may not be relevant anymore and things like that. So those are things that we've been able to evaluate through AI, and we have gained a good success there, I would say. Post which, what we do is, within the CI pipeline as well, we ensure that we have smoke pack which runs on every build, and we are able to validate things. But it also helps in understanding our there are AI tools that help in understanding our coverage at different levels. So there are quality gates that we put in place, so that based on a certain coverage, we say that this is a pass, or this cannot go ahead and things like that. Or if we need to assess the maturity from quality perspective of a particular area. Pulling out all of these reports and metrics and feeding that into the engineering metrics is something that is really essential. And we're looking at solutions like BrowserStack's test reporting and analysis and things like that. That is one thing that we're exploring for us to be able to build that capability within, and connect that with any other test management solutions, as well as the engineering metrics development solutions and things like that. Say for example, all stacks, or linear B and things like that, which have this capability for from engineering perspective, but then we would need to feed data into it. So having that connectivity between different tools from where you can pull the data and make sense of that data and be able to give a view to the higher management or leadership, that this is the maturity that we were aiming for, and this is where we are, and these are the gaps, and this is how we will be able to cover those gaps, is something that will be really useful for the team as well as for the leadership to understand where we stand.
Right, right. And yeah, just something as you mentioned that you explored your test suite and you're able to label it to yeah. And I think one of the things is redundant tests. Our applications are evolving so fast, and now even faster with AI. Tests becoming redundant and duplicate. I think very interesting that you're able to explore certain solutions and work with AI to be able to do that and make faster release cycles. Another something I will make note of it. And think you talked about coverage, which brings me to my favorite topic on build stability, flakiness. I've been reading some reports that now there's a lot of focus on the whole company and the engineering teams, also everyone contributing to making sure the tests are there as well. And they're facing this problem that the tests that are
Yeah.
being written, they're not of high quality. AI tools are also failing at high quality tests, and it's introducing more flakiness, maybe more flaky locators, and so on. So just curious, like in your whole build stability, flakiness, any insights or anything that you've looked at that will work for you?
So one thing is that because we are moving at such a pace now from product development perspective, technology itself is evolving at such a pace, and then we obviously have to, like, testing or engineers have to keep up with that, and they're also building things faster and stuff like that. It is definitely going to be error prone, but how we mitigate that is something that we need to think about. So one thing that we can possibly do there is trying to see how what kind of coverage we have at different layers. Say at unit level you need to have the maximum coverage. If I have to take the exam the concept of a test pyramid, where you have a layer of unit testing which has to be robust and which has to have the maximum amount of automation, then comes the component testing, then comes some contract tests and things like that, integration testing. At the end there is end-to-end testing, and which is very very essential, but it has to be lean and it has to be executed on multiple different environments for us to be able to understand, distribute our tests and understand that it works on all the different operating systems, devices, and device versions, and the browsers and all of that. So that is something that's essential for us to start governing from early on. So what we try to do is embed testing and automation from early on in any given program, and we try to establish those standards and make everybody adhere to it. Sort of trying to get buy-in from all the stakeholders for us to be able to do that. Again, trying to understand what kind of flakiness there is, why the tests are failing. Especially the UI tests are something that fail more often than not, and it is because of the brittleness of UI and how it is built and things like that. So if we are able to have a tool that gives us a view of what issue or error is causing these many tests to fail, for example, and there is a way to fix it at one point, and that impacts everything else, and we're able to move forward with it faster than not. It's something that will be really, really useful. Again, anything that can give us insight into the API tests as well will be useful, but then it's not as flaky as UI.
Yes, got it. Got it. So I think I talked about making sure establishing standards as the tests are being written, and uh, uh, especially in the analysis part, I think we talked about that how AI has been really helpful. And I think the more the tools can take on the job of categorizing them and bring surfacing the more important failures, I think that's what you're talking about, so that you can go through them faster. I think some of these things BrowserStack, I'm sure is working on it with their test reporting analytics product. But I think really important use case, and that's I'm sure it's making QAs more efficient in finding the issues faster.
Absolutely, yes.
Um, Great. I have two more questions. One, I wanted to quickly start just to understand about, there's so much investment from a company perspective, whether it is in revenue terms, or in the efforts that are going in. How are you sort of justifying this AI investment to your leadership? I think I'm sure our audience faces this. What sort of metrics you are sharing with teams, and you're yourself looking to understand that your team is in the right direction and AI tools are actually genuinely helping. So just curious about some of the metrics you're looking at, and even is it even AI is helping you to gather those metrics and probably like make it that process easy for you as well.
Yeah, that would be really useful when AI can write me a business case, and it is as as compelling as generally what we write, and it gets approved. So that will be a dream. But no, what we are today trying to do is gather as much information to understand how it impacts our effort. So what we did with the GitHub Copilot assist was we tried to understand for each of the activity that we were doing how much time did it save us from when we were doing this traditionally, or I wouldn't call it manually, but we are writing code. But we if we were to do it all by ourselves and from scratch, how much time it would take and versus how much time it is saving us. That's something that I gathered as data, and made sense of it from the perspective of how much are we spending in terms of effort, and what does it translate to in terms of cost. So in itself is like a shorter version of business case, and you're able to project that and be able to show that for all the different engineers in different areas, for example. So the same kind of thing we did for test observability as well. We did an analysis last year, I think, but we've not gone ahead with procuring it yet. We did that analysis and we tried to, assess in what areas it is giving us how much benefit, and again trace that back to the cost and presented that to the stakeholders. Also, it's about if it is eliminating all the effort of debugging and all the effort of analyzing the errors and things like that, you have more time to focus on things that are more important, or things that are needed for us to progress further in terms of product development and things like that. Better understanding of the business use cases and user journeys and stuff like that. So that is something that we I presented as a business case. um, I'm just trying to recollect if there's any other way AI has sort of helped us in projecting this particular
Did
thing.
you look at any Dora metrics or those any of those outcome metrics as well? That
Yeah. So, like I said, that we are trying to explore a few solutions that could help us in producing these engineering metrics. Today, in some areas, we have that maturity where we produce Dora metrics as a standard, but we collect all of that data manually today. So any tool or any solution that can help us pull that data automatically and pull that data more often will be something that will be really useful for the team. So we are exploring that, but what we have seen as a challenge is not every tool is compatible with everything else that we use. So because we have such varying estate of different kinds of tool sets, if there is something that brings all of it together and is able to pull that data from everywhere, in during runtime, it produces very rich, metrics and KPIs for us to be able to share it. Yeah.
great, great. I think if there are any QA leads here, please, I think the way I understand this is look at the efficiency versus the cost. I think that's one of the ways you can put up a business case for your team to be more AI empowered. And if you are someone who is an individual contributor, please go and talk to your leads and help them build this business case. I think great way of looking at the cost versus the efficiency.
Yeah.
And I think yes, if magically AI has the context of the different data points that are sitting in so many applications, hopefully, it can generate those reports for you as well, and then
Yeah,
please.
I think anything that is cost benefits, AI will be able to help because it's just calculations, isn't it? At the end of the day, but anything that is more than that, from the perspective of quality or maturity and how we the ways of working improvements and developer productivity improvements from the perspective of the headspace that all these things occupy, that's something probably is very difficult to quantify, and that's where human brain can help, I think.
Right, right. One last question for you, Anis, and more forward-looking, more futuristic. Space is evolving fast. How do you see, where do you see this few years down the line? Just from and or probably like what would the right direction for the AI to actually be helpful for QAs teams, and just
Yeah.
anything you can share with us.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. So I think w- the space that still needs to evolve is trying to get the business context and trying to highlight the gaps between that and our tests that are generated. Even if AI itself helps us generate those tests,
Mhm.
trying to first understand what gaps we have in the user stories that have been built, the quality of the user stories itself, and the disconnect between that and what business actually wants is something that AI can obviously help us in. And if it evolves in that space, it'll be really useful. Another thing is, where I see all of this is going, the end point could be that it's not just helping testing or one single area. It is basically helping in product development itself.
Mhm.
So probably somebody who's a technical expert or technical SME, like an architect or whoever, could provide the list of requirements based on which AI is able to build components, build different integrations and things like that, and embed quality into it based on the set of standards that we provide. So from our perspective, the things that we can ensure is use it to the best of abilities, but have governance around it and ensure that whatever it is producing is of the right quality and all of that. And we are the best judge of what it is producing. And from that sense, I think quality engineers' role is evolving from just doing the testing or testing the product to testing how the product has been built as well, and what kind of quality has been embedded into the product itself. Defining those standards, defining those best practices together, and understanding those gaps from business to the implementation is something that will evolve in the future, and that's how we also need to sort of evolve with it.
Right. Great, great. I'm just going to summarize it. I think the context missing, business context, product context, I think domain context, I think that's one where the AI is feeling a lot, I believe, and they need
Yeah,
to, before applying anywhere, they need to have the right context of the business, which is where I think humans excel, and
absolutely.
hopefully
Yeah,
they'll excel for a large period of time. But I think fully agree that product development is changing overall, and all functions evolve with it, and
yeah,
the quality and governance part, right? So I feel like humans are there in the loop for a long time, and the quality and governance they have to make sure they enforce as AI coming to it.
absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Anish, for me firing these questions at you, and you very graciously replying. Very helpful. What we're going to do is take few questions from our audience, and then we move forward. So I'm just go through few questions.
sure.
Testing, connecting activity. Okay. So I think there are a couple of questions around manual functional testing, uh,
Hmm.
and just any AI tools that help you. in that, or I think that the audience is probably looking at that.
Sure. So one thing I think I missed while I was talking about different use cases of AI within QE is how there are, how these crawlers, which can be configured within the application space, can help in producing the tests by assessing the actions and validations that we do. For example, so if you have, say, switched on that particular configuration and crawler, and you're simply going through your user journeys and all of it, it is able to produce the tests that should be, um, you know, um, basically documented against all of the actions that you're taking.
Mhm.
That is something that will be really useful if you're able to explore something like that for your applications and be able to produce the tests. There are some low code no code tools that basically automate these tests that they've identified as well through the user journeys and actions and all of that. Apart from that, I think user story validations and trying to generate tests through user stories is something that AI can help with. But again, that is needed to be used as assist, and we need to ensure that there is enough coverage. So that's how probably it can help with manual testing as well. Exploratory testing is something that, again, it's like an experimentation, and that's not something that a tool or basically AI can also do. That's something, again, we would have to think from the perspective of how would the user use this, and stuff like that. um, yeah.
This brings me to a very important question that I believe with AI it's very pertinent today is the security and the data privacy part. So, a couple of questions around it. How do you alleviate or manage the security concerns? Especially, it's important for enterprises,
Absolutely, it
and
is.
there were some questions around when you're preparing test data. How do you manage sensitive data? Does not go into it. So, just in general, your approach that has been around security and data privacy.
Yeah. So I'll go by the first question. So the what we essentially do is for data privacy, or the ensuring that there's no unsecured data within whatever data we provide for the testing, is put in place the checks, like SonarQube checks and things like that on your security checks on your pipelines itself, so that you are absolutely sure that nothing slips through that. But also utilizing some of the configurations that things like GitHub Actions provide you, like a separate credentials file which is secure and doesn't go into the code. That is something that you would need to ensure as well. But if you're talking about ensuring data usage through manual testing, that is something that we need to have as part of best practices and the practice that you follow, and understanding what is sensitive and not sensitive. And that comes down to, like, having that knowledge and understanding of what is sensitive, what is not, from your organization's perspective and the application's perspective. Coming to the data security or the information security infosec aspect of the AI tools itself, yes, the infosec teams have been very diligent about, like, what is basically secure and what is not. So they're very particular about these things, and I would say be led by them, because they are the experts of what is safe and what is secure for us to use, and what is safe for us to bring into our estate. I would highly advise on not sort of downloading anything that you see interesting that is an AI solution that could easily, disrupt a lot of things for your organization. I have always taken a very diligent approach where, anything that I am proposed as a solution, my team, I encourage them to sort of explore and come back to me with what they think can be useful for the team or for themselves. But what I do is I then go and assess it myself as well, and then I immediately reach out to my DSR team, who the digital safety risk and assessment team, who do a thorough analysis of what that product is, what is the security they have put in, they've built in into the product itself. And they put in place policies and procedures around how we need to bring it, how we need to onboard it, and what is the security we need to put in place within easyJet for us to be able to access it securely. So I would suggest be led by such experts and security teams within your
Uh,
enterprises.
Got it. I think this a great learning is this experiment, but with caution of
Correct.
the data privacy. And I think that's how I'd encourage the community also to follow that. Um, Great. I think these were. Thank you so much, Anis. I think there are tons of more questions, but we are short of time. Just very interesting for me is that a lot of these problems we are exploring at BrowserStack. We are looking at healing. How can it solve some of these locator issues
Yeah,
and bring more stability? I think debugging is a great problem that needs to be solved, and I personally feel it as an engineer that how do we simplify it and save our lives and spend time in something more strategic. And Interestingly, we are also looking at the test selection and smart orchestration around how do we make sure that some of the code, how do we only select tests which are pertaining to certain code changes or certain
yeah,
application modules that again faster feedback, faster release cycles, faster product development. I think that's how
yeah.
this AI is
Risk-based
changing.
approach too. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right. So that's how we are also looking at different junctures and see how do we make QA teams more dramatically more efficient while also making sure adhering to privacy as well as humans are always there in the loop and the QAs are making sure that they are augmented by AI rather than
yeah.
anything else. Thank you so much, Anis. I think it's very helpful. And I'll just quickly go over a few housekeeping items. Again, thank you so much, Anis. Thank you everyone for joining, for sharing your practical experience as a practitioner and what is working in AI and what is not. Great takeaways for everyone, for all of us. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining. I'm sure you had certain good takeaways from this, and hope some of this you start applying in your respective companies as well. Thank you so much. So.
Thank you for having me, Neeraj. Thanks, everybody.